Welcome back to another building session from my LEGO mock of Samus Aran from the Metroid franchise. If you haven't seen part 1, you should probably go do that first. Otherwise, let's get back to the build. So when we last left off, I was looking at this hand here and was not satisfied with these fingers at all. So fortunately, I've got a couple of options here. Now, the original construction figures, well, I should say, there was Iron Man, Spider-Man, and then Miles Morales as well. Now, Iron Man was kind of like, you could say, a concept, and then both Spider-Man were more of the fleshed out concept. But both of those Spider-Men used these bar pieces with the clips for their fingers, and it gets the job done, but it's still a bit of a meaty looking hand. Now, fortunately, they do come in orange, which I'm a little bit surprised. So that is definitely an option. I don't really like this thumb back here. With the Spider-Man figures, they had the web that you could clip in here, and so generally the hand would be open, so it didn't really look that weird. But we can use this 90-degree bar piece here, which looks still kind of awkward, but it doesn't look terribly bad. And even this one doesn't look terribly bad either, but again, it's still a bit of a bulky hand. Now, personally, over these clip pieces, I prefer the 1x1 clips with the bars. However, in this configuration, this thumb still looks quite weird up top here, and it's just a little bit too skeletal for my liking. So I have gone and made a completely different hand that is something of a hybrid, I suppose you could say. It uses these. Well, this isn't the same piece as over here. This one actually has a bar instead of a clip. But this attaches as the thumb, and then these are still the fingers here. And it's just a bit more of a slimmed down hand. It doesn't look so much like it's just going to grab stuff or whatever. If you do rotate the thumb, you can still get a halfway decent fist. So, I mean, it looks a little bit awkward, but I mean, I guess it's not particularly worse than whatever's going on over here. So I think I will go with this hand and for now, and if I have to, I can always backpedal and just go with the more classic version. However, they did ditch these fingers really quickly, so even LEGO themselves knows that it's not the greatest in the world, but hey, we work with what we got. So I've made a couple modifications once I actually attached it to the arm here. I moved the hinge connection one plate over. It was over here, and I moved it more center. The only problem with that is that this whole section was the way I had it built was not reinforced very well, so I've changed it to this 1x2 round tile here, and then just 1x1 tile up there. Now, preferably, if those 1x2 plates of the clip came in orange, I could just use that up here as well, and that would be even more reinforcement. But this should get the job done. Again, this isn't going to be a load-bearing hand, so it doesn't have to hold anything. I think this looks a little bit better than it did, because if I just undo to attaching it here, it doesn't look super terrible, but does look just a little bit awkward with everything on the inside of the hand. But moving it out one just balances it out a little bit better. So something that's been getting in the way is that I'm changing the lower arm style from Wolverine's to Captain America's here, and it should be a simple change, except the issue is by using this 2x2 plate with the toe ball on it, means that the backstop for the arm, so it doesn't just flop to a 90 degrees straight, this piece here is connected to the upper portion of the arm. But unfortunately, because of the way I built mine, I can't do that because this has to be a 2x2 plate, because that 1x2, well, I should say that wedge plate should be here, but if it's here, then there's nothing to connect it up top here. So I can't actually do it that way. And the simple solution would be, well, it just replaces 2x2 plate with the toe ball with the 1x2 variant. Well, the problem is that they are not the same. The toe ball comes out considerably shorter on the 1x2 variant than on the 2x2 variant. So once again, I'm probably going to have to make some weird hybrid between these two arms to get something satisfactory. So I think I'm going back to the Wolverine lower arm, and I might be going with this 45 degree, I think that's a 45 degree, I don't know. This slightly more angled arm, which I'm not crazy about because it just forces it to stick out a little bit more, but the arm is a bit more fleshed out because the original piece I have here, this other wedge plate. It's just a little bit more scattered. I mean, that doesn't actually look that bad, so I could probably go with either, because I do prefer the arm in this more relaxed position than just kind of sticking out like that. So if I have to, I can go with this version, but I think I will stick with this for now. I have also bulked up the upper arm a little bit, where it was just a 2x3 tile, and I also added a 1x2. Oh yeah, I should merge these together. I have added a 1x2 plate here just so it doesn't kind of trim down. Well, I guess you don't like. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't need it, but I think it just looks a little bit more proper with that there. However, the only thing with doing this is that it does reduce the movement of this upper arm here, so it can only extend to like about there, or maybe a little bit more, which is not great. If I can figure out a way to remove the need to have this brick come all the way down, because this is what's colliding into the arm, then I would be able to get more movement out of it. But given my current state here, I don't really see that happening. But I'll probably look at it at some point to do that. But right now, I think I want to tackle the cannon arm. Now for my larger Samus figure, I went a little too big with the initial cannon concept. So what I'm going to do with this is start with a 3x3 diameter with these 1x1 slopes here. And I'm going to extend it out, and again, the biggest issue is going to be getting the front of the cannon, because I want to make sure it's got a massive barrel on it. So we'll try this, and we'll go from there. So looking for the catalog, I found this green wheel piece, which it's got a nice little recess there. It's not quite as deep as I would like, but it could get the job done. And then I thought, well, why don't I take a tire? If we have a black wheel and a green tire, that could do the trick. However, there are no tires that come in green, so unfortunately I'll just have to stick with a green wheel for now. Now, as much as I like being fancy with my builds, I should probably try something a little bit more clean, again, given that this is a construction figure, and do something that involves these 4x4 round bricks and plates. There are also these 2x2 ones that can be used for detailing, because in fact this would actually work fine for the barrel. There wouldn't be any tapering though, so I guess that's an issue with that. However, these pieces only come in one set from the first LEGO Star Wars pod racing set. So I hope if I do go this method, I don't use too many of these, because that might make the price go up just a little bit. Of course, I probably won't have to go with that route, given the fact that these 4x4 round plates with holes in it exist, and with these macaroni tiles, that would make a nice cap off of the front. Now this is where that barrel would come in handy. To be fair, it doesn't look quite as good as I had hoped. The taper down is very dramatic, and in this situation, I don't believe dark turquoise. Yes, so these bricks don't come in dark turquoise, nor do the plates. So this whole concept right here is a bit of a bust. It's starting to look like I'm making Christmas trees out here. So the big problem I'm running into is how to get the slight taper to the front of the gun barrel. The 4x4 diameter is good for most of the cannon, but then translating 4x4 to 3x3 is quite a bit more difficult. There are 3x3 tiles, but there are no 3x3 round plates, which is what I would need for a situation like this. If I can figure out how to taper down to 4x4 to 3x3, then this base would do the trick nicely. Otherwise, I've got some other concepts here, like this one is just quite a bit too skinny. This one isn't very round, and this one here, while probably the most promising, has very limited options for surface area, given that these bricks don't come with the studs on two sides. You can get these bricks with studs on three sides, but then that's going to be causing internal trouble, so I can't use that. I mean, so far, attaching this wheel onto the top is probably my best and possibly only bet, so let me see if I can get this actually attached. Okay, that was a considerably easier task than I anticipated, because this wheel here takes a regular axle. All I had to do was stick a free-long axle into it with one of these tiles with a hole in it, and then a regular 2x2 round tile, which has an axle hole in it. And then since these round bricks have holes through the center, it just slots in perfectly. And then we can put this around it, and boom, we have, well, a very plain arm cannon, but we can doctor it up. We can make it we can make it look a little bit more fancy. Something I should consider when working with the arm cannon here is exactly how it's going to mount to the arm. Now, going from studs facing out to studs facing forward is a simple enough task. I could just use a bracket or something like that. However, that's going to be a very frail connection. Now, another method which I could do would be this brick here, which is a Technic 1x2 brick with a plate sticking out the back of it. This would allow me to add an axle, which would be able to easily attach to cannon. However, this doesn't come in either orange or green, so that is probably not going to be a viable option. So this idea looks promising. What I've got here is some curved slopes along with some inverted curved slopes, and in the center is just this big long 2x8 plate. And this provides all the structural strength I need, and then all I need to do is attach the cannon front on the front, which might be more challenging than I would think, but let's go at this a little bit more and see where it leads. Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably about a 5. I mean, yeah, it's the general shape of the arm cannon, but it's a little bit chunky. Now, again, there would be some additional refinements that could be done to it to make it look more accurate, but I think I'm going to steer away from this direction, or at the very least from these particular slopes. Well, I figure if the best way to attach the cannon is through an axle, I'll just add an axle connection up here. So I just widen the hinges by 1 plate, and I haven't added it yet, but I'll be able to add the wedge plate back here in order to keep this arm braced, and then when I design the cannon, I can just slide onto this axle. So far this is what I got, which actually doesn't look too bad. I haven't refined it yet, so its structural integrity is probably debatable, but I've got most of the important bits on it. We've got these rings up front, we got the discs on the side, even a little bit of color for the power beam there. It's a little bit flat on the sides back here, but somehow that doesn't really look too bad, like all things considered. It's a pretty decent size at that proportion, and it would be nice if this was these macaroni tiles were like a 4x4 dish, but unfortunately the 4x4 dish with the hole in the stud does not come in green, so it's pretty much just gotta have that flat cut off there. But this wheel doesn't look so bad for the front of the barrel either. So overall, I'm actually fairly happy with it. Like I said, I'll have to refine it to make sure it actually won't fall apart. But if it survives that, we might be golden. Alright, so I got the internals ironed out for the cannon. It's not super fantastic. The axle that actually attaches the cannon to the arm is only a free long axle. I was hoping to get it to extend further through the cannon. However, because of the way that this section is attached, I needed to use these brackets, and the brackets will cut into the travel of the axle if it goes any farther. So it's good enough. This section here with the light should probably be going a little bit longer too. I'm not sure that's something I'm going to mess with right now. I mean, I'm not going to mess with it right now. Maybe later. But yeah, it looks pretty good from all angles. I did add this Technic pulley wheel here just to try and give it a little bit more of a gradual narrowing from the 4x4 to the 2x2. So yeah, it looks pretty nice there, honestly, I dare say. So with that, I think now it's time to finally move to the head, which the head is concerning me, just because I know what issues it gave me with the larger version. So to try to make that smaller is going to be quite a bit of a challenge. So your standard construction head is just 4 studs wide, and they utilize this armor piece, which is printed. Obviously, I do not have access to something of that sort, so I'm going to have to make the visor on my own. Now, I've seen Samus figures in the past, and I know they've used like the 1x1 cheese slopes, so I'm probably going to do something along those lines, although this right off out of the gate doesn't really look that good. So I could go and look back at those old Samus models I've seen, but I would like to try and come up with my own first, and if I really get stumped, then I'll take some tips from them, but I'm going to go and plot ahead first. And of course, another detail of Samus's helmet that's going to prove troublesome are these air hoses. My initial thought here was to use bananas, but I don't really think that's going to get the job done. I mean, maybe once it's all together it might, but it's definitely an idea, but I should probably look into other options. And since Samus's helmet has a bit of a longer appearance, I'm tempted to use one of these shoulder armor pieces that's usually used to cover the upper shoulder, but it kind of has the shape of Samus's helmet already, so this is also an idea, but looking at it now, this curve on the front would probably make it difficult to actually close up, so this is looking less feasible than I initially imagined. Now it looks a little bit silly, but these revolver pieces actually don't look too bad for the air hoses, so this I might have to keep this on the back burner. Well, first prototypes are abysmal. I'm not so happy with much of this, actually. The visor is okay. Tricky to get at this scale, but everything else just does not look good, so gotta keep at it, I suppose. You know, I've designed Samus's helmet 3 times so far. One for my helmet build, one for my large Samus figure, and now this time. And each time it has not gotten easier, and in fact, it looks like my skills have deteriorated. While I have the general form of the helmet, it is just not looking as sleek as it's supposed to here. Even utilizing some of these newer slope pieces, it's just not getting the point across. So I'm getting a little bit concerned at this point. So I think I'm going to have to take a different approach. One thing I want to retain is the fact that these traditional construction heads are, well, they're a very stable design, the way they're built with the studs facing forward. So I think if I focus on structural integrity versus actual visual accuracy, that might guide me a little bit better. It certainly won't look quite as good as, let's say, like my larger version here. But if it fits a construction, like, I guess, aesthetic, then I suppose that's the best I will be able to do. Now, I know it's a bit of a fool's errand given the fact that LEGO would just print the visor and everything on this armor piece here instead of building it how I'm doing it. But at the end of the day, this is a LEGO mock that I am designing, so I suppose I can modify and tweak the rules as need be, although I would like to stay within the general boundaries of it being a structurally sound model overall. Again, given that this is representing a construction figure and not purely a display piece. So I think I got something that will actually work here. It took a little bit of effort and it's a little bit rough. It's a bit forehead heavy, but it certainly looks better than my older version back there. The lower portion is essentially the same with the side modules and the free stud wide visor and stuff, but above it I have these 2x2 curved slopes facing the studs forward, and behind that I have these matching slopes, but these are studs facing up and down attached to this 2x2 bracket here. And behind it, to cap it off, this is an unnecessary section, but I do kind of prefer how it looks instead of just leaving it flat. But I had to use some stud inversion here with these 1x2 round plates, a 2 long bar, and then this 1x1 by 2 plates tall brick with a hole in it to complete the stud inversion. And this just caps off the back nicely. This whole upper segment is attached on by this 1x2 brick with an axle hole in it, connected to this 1x1 brick with an axle hole in it. So this whole upper section is only connected by this axle, so it should be strong enough. Now, if I didn't want this rear segment here, if I just kept the studs facing forward, I could reinforce this a bit, but hopefully I should be able to make a physical prototype of this to a certain degree, and I can test it there. But even in the computer here, I think it would be sturdy enough, and if you really want to, you could just grab the head by the side modules here and move and stuff, but I'd really rather not it have to be that fragile. But I haven't mounted it yet, so I should see what this looks like on the figure. And I dare say it looks pretty good on there. The little problem is that it appears it doesn't have much, well, it doesn't have any travel to rotate down, but the helmet can look up and it can even look to the sides. So there's a ways around. I can probably make more space between the head and the torso here if I want to give her a little bit of a looking down travel. But yeah, overall, I think it fits. It fits well enough. So yeah, now it looks like the last major bit of detail I have to do is add her jetpack. So something I've completely forgotten about is that on Samus's hips, she has these kind of discs, and I did not add that, so I'm going to do that now. There we go. All I had to do was add some 3x3 dishes on here, and we're golden. Now I just gotta figure out how to add her jetpack. Well, I think that's going to do it for the jetpack. It's a little bit on the small side, but if I go any bigger, it's going to start looking like the version I made for my large Samus, and that's probably going to get a little too big. But all I did here is I've got these thruster pieces I made up. I've got a fin gear on the front, and then these are just two wheels behind it with a bushing. And then this is a fancy piece. It's just one big long axle with a hole at the end of it, and that's connected to the other smaller Technic pin with the hole in it. So that gives it up and down movement as well as left and right movement, just so they can kind of flare out a little bit. And I've put this center section far enough back so it should kind of be as a brace, so they shouldn't be flopping around. And I believe these Technic pins here are friction, so they won't be flopping like that either. So I went ahead and did some refining of the model, and I'll just give you a quick update of what all I did. So I did end up lowering the thrusters a little bit and just modifying how they were mounted specifically so I could clear the way in the center for these 1x4 inverted slopes. And then on the outside here I have these 1x3 plates with the hole in it, and that is how these thrusters are attached. So these are essentially the same. And then I went ahead and did some general torso refinements, mainly just structural things. This center piece was actually not attached properly, so I had to go and do a little funny business. Right now it's attached. We have a 1x2 brick here, studs on the front, a 2x2 inverted bracket, which is attached to this slope piece because this bracket is upside down. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess, but it gets the job done. I do and don't like, I was able to get the shoulders rounded here, and what I don't like about it is because I use this new 1x1 round quarter brick. And the reason why I say I don't like that is because I'm one who thinks that we get plenty enough new pieces, maybe at a bit too much of a rate. It's one of those things, too many pieces, too many colors. As long as they don't become specific, like where they have very limited usage, obviously this can be used for just about anything, so I suppose it's fine, but some pieces do seem a little more unnecessary than others. I also considered changing this toe ball socket to the 2x2 plate with the toe ball on it, because this has a little bit more distance than the 1x2 variant, which is currently in the head, which would have allowed some down angle movement, because unfortunately the head cannot angle down. It can move back, it can do all that good stuff, but I could chisel out a little bit of the front here, but that broke up the outline a little bit too much. Speaking of that, the center two studs possibly should be black instead of red, because there is a little bit of a divot going on there, but again, like I said, it broke up the outline a little bit much, and I do kind of like the clean look here, but that is something you could do. You could reduce these curved slopes here, so you could get some forward head tilt, or you could add the black there. It is, a little bit subjective. Another issue that's a little less subjective is the shoulders. The way they're mounted is, while it's not not secure. It's definitely could be secured more, and it's because I did round it off here. If these were squared plates, I would be able to use larger plates and more proper reinforcement, but it's all connected. It's just probably not as connected as Lego would do it, and again, maybe not as well built for play. So that's something that if I won't really know unless I actually build a physical prototype. And again, it could be squared off here. I just do like how it rounds off there. It just looks very nice. Speaking of the shoulders there, because of the way these shoulder pads are mounted, and I bulked up the sides of the arm a little bit, these can't go down quite as far as I would like. So the arm can really pivot only up to about here properly, which it's enough motion. And especially given the fact that you can move the arm forward and backwards. So I mean, it's got a very respectable degree of motion for these shoulders, but I would prefer if the arm could go out a little bit farther. But again, you know, I could always slim that down, you know, if you wanted a specific pose where the arm's out. And speaking of the arm cannon here is something I didn't think about again, but which is most likely an issue with the big figure, and possibly this one as well, is the fact that this is a very dense contraption here. So I don't even know how well if this arm could even hold itself out. And again, that's something that I won't know unless I actually build a physical prototype. So just little things to be concerned about. Not probably the end of the world, at least that's what I'm hoping. But overall, I am quite pleased with this figure. It is easy to be critical, obviously, but at the end of the day, for what it is, or what it isn't, or whatever, what have you, yeah, I think she actually looks pretty good, I dare say. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to construct a physical prototype to test the cannon arm, but I'm confident enough that I'm still going to share the digital model, which you can find in the description. Unless at some point I find some glaring flaw with the design, then you won't. But for now, goodbye.